here. Queen City. Radio City. My city. Almost put out my cool vest, like travel fit me there. Looking around for sure to get off the street. Very little Gowski. Digraphs. Hey, what do you know? I think you can see me, and I think you can hear me. And those are good things when you're doing a live stream. So, yay me. Let's start off with a congratulatory drink of the, well, I won't say what it is. I'm not endorsing brands yet. They're going to have to pay me more. How are you guys doing? Is this looking good? Because, oh, somebody's asking, look at that. Lefty Gramps was telling people to vet yesterday. Yeah, you know what? For those of you at Patreon and for those of you YouTube memberships, I took some pictures of my little kitty to get a little sensor installed on her. We're going to do that before. I hate it. I have to shave her hair and basically glue it to her. It's safe for her, but she's not a fan because we need to up her insulin take at this point to keep her healthy. She is healthy though. They took everything and she's doing great. So she's an adorable little sweetie. So we named her Stella because she's a star, and then she's a star. And Kathy Logan, that is not a Trump diet Coke. Actually, it's a diet Pepsi. But really, I didn't intend to share that because it's not. I have one of those a day, one little treat. That's it. I don't have like 47 like him mixed in with crushed Adderall, mixed in with KFC grease, mixed in with whatever cheese falls out of his hair. So I'm different. I do want to say thank you for all of you who are saying nice things about the kitty. Let's start with that. Here's a big question for you. How does this look? I got tired of looking like Casper, the friendly KKK member attending a MAGA rally. So the expert guy from downstairs came up and adjusted the lighting. So tell me, is the lighting better? Do I look like I have any pigment to my skin? Or do I still look like someone who should be dancing around in an upside down flag in a Trump diaper? What do you say? Oh, you guys are still saying nice stuff about Stella. Thank you. I really appreciate that. She's a sweetie. I'll find a way to show you. Well, there's always the old fashioned way. Pictures to the camera, right? Anything good of her in here? Wait, where'd the rest of them go? They got to be in here. I took more than one picture. Of course that would happen. See? Microphone works. Can't find the pictures of Stella. It's always something, kids. We'll get them for you. I'll get pictures actually of all the kitties in here. Maybe I'll bring one in one of these days. That would be awesome. So things are good. Did anybody make a comment? Do I look, what did you say, look more liberal? Okay. Whitey Cliff needed a little color lighting. Looks great to me. Thank you, Chipmunk Milk. You look amazing. Ooh, thank you. I wasn't going for amazing as much as I was going for, again, not someone who would be immediately recruited into the Oath Keepers. Okay, that's what I was going for here. You have color, Cliff, from Jim Williams. Okay, you guys are just making me feel all warm inside, which is good because I got something serious to talk about. A lot of serious things. We're going to go into the hearings today. It's going to be difficult because I don't know what I can talk about, particularly when it pertains to RFK Jr. Almost anything he says, YouTube will ban me for. We'll go a little bit into Tulsi if you want to. I mean, I don't know that there's a lot there because it's pretty obvious. We're definitely going into Kash Patel. I just want to, side of the head, get his eyes to look straight. But his playing victim today and Adam Schiff and Cory Booker pounding on him, and no, not in a gross way, just destroying him. It was good TV and it made me feel all good inside. And I needed that. You know why I needed that? Because right now we're going to do the takedown and we're going to begin. And you guys know, obviously, what happened last night. It was horrible. I lived in Washington for 8 years. You don't have to have lived there to care. You just need to be human. But a plane landing at National Airport, there's not a word in front of that, just so you know. That's what we called it, National. And having a Blackhawk helicopter out there crashing into it. What the hell's going on? Right away, we want answers because you do want answers for that. I start with Pete Hegseth, who's supposed to be running the Pentagon. Yeah, I know he was a drunk and sexually assaulted people and never ran anything that had more than 100 people at it and got kicked out of everywhere he went. And he's a Nazi lover and the rest. But maybe he could understand how to not have a Blackhawk there. I mean, again, I don't know that it's his fault yet. So I will say that. We don't know yet what happened, but I'm going to get more into that because when you attack government constantly, you weaken government, you demean the people in government. What you do is you make it harder for them to do their jobs. When they can't do their jobs, we all suffer. I've got plenty of examples of that here. But let's start with, give us some answers, Hegseth, and then let's move on to what we all really want to talk about. Immediate aftermath, I was trying to decide what I was going to say, but all it took, of course, was 2 seconds for Donald Trump to convince me by coming out and saying, DEI hires, that's what it did, Joe Biden. This man, this orange spray painted turd, this loser of a fool who was handed $400 million and went into casinos and lost money, places where people sit down with oxygen-filled rooms and no windows and get plied with drinks. And basically you give them chips for money and they give those chips back to you. He went bankrupt. He can't willingly find female partners, so he assaults them. He can't willingly find business partners, he rips them off. The biggest loser, the biggest joke, the biggest, I don't know, the personal DEI hire, his family hired him for diversity because they needed to hire somebody. Maybe the other people working for Daddy the racist were competent. They needed a moron. So this slovenly, fat, loser, scumbag, moron who has every negative trait in humanity, some combination of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and like the 7 deadly sins and Surtur from Ragnarok and, one of the freaking velociraptors that can open doors and just anything negative you can think of. He has no positive human qualities. He's awful. He immediately attacks the people before him. You're president now, buddy. The buck stops at your desk. In your case, it ends up being billions from a crypto scam. But the buck stops there. That's something that Harry Truman, a man who's the opposite of you, said. People that actually didn't get born and have little daddy hand them all their money and give them all their jobs and make a phone call and get them into Wharton. So right away, started asking the question, well, why could this have been because of Donald Trump? Well, I don't know. What did he do 8 days ago? 8 days ago, as one of his first acts, he fired the director of the TSA. He fired 400 upper-level FAA workers, and he fired 3,000 employees overall. That is tens of thousands of years, could be 100,000 of years in experience, tossed out the door. Why? Because he's got a plan put together by a bunch of little monkeys with machine guns. In other words, these little loser incels who are more pasty white than I was before we fixed these lights. We used to sit around and stand in corners together and talk about joke and talk about sports at like high school dances because everybody hated them and got stuffed into lockers and were little losers and decided they're going to get their revenge on the rest of us. You've seen them before. You know what they look like. There's a guy, he may be vice president, his name may rhyme with J.D. Hance. He was one of those, just determined to hurt the rest of the world because they're such zeros. So what is this guy do? He fires all of these folks, and now we don't know what happened. Was the crash due to that? I don't know. But if I want to be like Donald Trump, yeah, it was Donald Trump's fault, 100%. He knew everything. See how easy that is to do? But the easier thing to do would be to say, not just that crash, everything else. Because they've made the mission, Project 2025, to destroy our bureaucratic state. Everything that has been created to make us safer, really to turn us into a first world country starting over 100 years ago. The Sherman Antitrust Act was passed in 1890 to make sure that large corporations couldn't harm consumers, couldn't harm the environment. And Teddy Roosevelt started enforcing that when he became president in the early 20th century, breaking up large companies, which, again, we've gotten back to a monopolistic state where a couple people control everything. A couple losers like Zuckerberg and Bezos who fit right into that little incels in the corner plan. What else, besides that, on his own, I can just think off the top of my head, Teddy Roosevelt in 1906, the Antiquities Act, because we were going to protect the environment. We're just going to hand it over to a bunch of corporate warlords, right? He passed the FDA. These guys are trying to gut that now too. I asked a simple question in what I wrote up earlier. Do you want to blame Trump for this? I don't know. Do you think losing thousands of years in experience or hundreds of thousands of years in experience or tens of thousands and thousands of people who are competent at their jobs could maybe end up causing a plane crash? I think it could. Could firing I don't know, thousands of workers at the FDA and losing tens of thousands of years of experience in that lead to E. coli outbreaks and that kind of thing. And maybe people not sharing with you when there's avian flu out there in your eggs. I mean, again, that might fall over to Health and Human Services, but he wants to get rid of that too. The reason people created this stuff, and it was Republicans and Democrats, because they understood to be a modern society, this is what we needed. Okay? I named what they did in 1906. Was it 1913? It wasn't the Revenue Act. Was it the Emergency Revenue Act or whatever? They created the income tax so we could be a modern country. Again, once you start seeing all of these things, you understand who it is who's on the Republican side, who hates every one of them. Income tax, breaking up large monopolies, punishing you for poisoning people with your big agribusiness. And then you look a little further to probably the last one who created more than any of them, maybe all of them together, which is FDR. 1933, I believe it was the Social Securities Act. I believe 33, or was that 35? I think 35 was that. 33 was the Emergency Banking Act, the FDIC. Yeah, not crypto scams, so that we can put our money in banks and know that initially up to $100,000 of federally, is guaranteed by federal deposits. So we know that not some scumbag billionaire banker is going to come just steal our money and we won't be able to get it back. Social Security, so that we can retire with dignity. You know, people eating cat food. No, they want that back too. That is what they've been doing, leading an assault on government. This son of a bitch, this absolutely lawless, classless scumbag has the gall when he's trying to find a way to fire 50 civil service workers so he can replace them all with little political flunkies like we're back in Stalinist Russia. He's tried to offer minor buyouts to get rid of 2 million members of that federal government bureaucracy. Not only is that one of the key bulwarks and institution against fascism, like pastors like Pastor Booty in moderate suburban churches, like our judiciary that's already been destroyed, like corporate media, which is a joke. So he's assaulting the bureaucratic state, and everybody gets what they want. He has no accountability. And the rich get to save all that money they'd have to pay in taxes and pay to, make sure people don't starve and get in crashes and stuff. This is our future. Whether this particular plane crash happened because of Donald Trump or not, and I'm just going to say it happened because of Donald Trump, there will be future ones if they keep firing people in all these positions. This is when we allowed Reagan to define this as, regulations. And we played on his turf with an abstract term. This isn't regulations. These are life-saving measures. These are measures to protect all of us, the regular people. As my friend Tony Michaels calls it sometimes, the great American working class, as I often refer to, just regular everyday folks, middle-class folks who want to work their way up and have a chance at the American dream, lest they not have a boot put on their neck by these selfish sons of bitches who don't care if planes and helicopters crash. As long as their little plane, outfitted with their little, $8 billion brandy, is okay. That's what we're talking about. This issue goes to the very heart of what they're doing. And this son of a bitch, Donald Trump, when he said he wanted to let these civil service workers go, I mean, let's see. Quote, "They've betrayed this country. They're crooked. They're dishonest." That's what the 94 counts, multiple felon, the guy convicted of felonies, the guy who was going to be convicted of insurrection, one who would have been convicted of stealing state secrets, the traitor, the loser, the guy that committed all sorts of crimes he was never even held accountable for, ripping people off of Trump University and getting to pay $25 million to bail himself out. This fucking liar, criminal, loser, piece of human dung dares call people that go in and give their lives to work for the government. They go in every day and make less money to keep us safe. Every one of those people could probably go somewhere else and make a lot more money. But no, they're passionate about keeping our food clean or our roads safe. So they go and they do those kinds of things. You know what they don't do? They don't ignore what every expert tells them. So a certain disease I'm not allowed to talk about on here ends up killing 40% more people than it should. 400,000 people, according to the Lancet, Foundation, could have been saved if somebody had gone out and warned people about what was out there, told people to take care of themselves, hadn't denied it, lied about it, and refused international cooperation. 400,000 people. Yeah, they died because of Donald Trump. Is it so hard to believe that a plane full of people did too? This is our future. We must fight him every day. There was a huge win the other day when the judge immediately froze his attack on federal grants, because that's the same thing. If you don't have a grant, it doesn't really matter if you have a job. in certain parts of the government, you're fired basically. You got nothing you can do. Cancer research? Yeah, cancer. Think about that. Think about these selfish sons of bitches. Think about the people that we've allowed to get in office right now. This guy should end up in Guantanamo. Why don't we have the kind of trial for him that he wants to have for all of us? I mean, when I saw the DEI thing, this fucking guy, I swear, this pathetic loser, this guy's never worked a job in his life, and these people give their lives for so much less because they care about something bigger than themselves. As John Kelly, whose politics I think suck, still his chief of staff said, Donald Trump has never cared about anything beyond himself. He doesn't understand how to. He doesn't understand sacrifice or service. He couldn't love his country because that would be loving something beyond him. And his little bank account and his golden shitter and whatever porn star he's paying off this week and whatever state secrets he's stealing next week. So in the end, let's sum it up this way. I don't know 100% why this accident happened yet, but it's Donald Trump's fault. And the future of all of these will be Donald Trump's fault because he created this culture. He created this atmosphere where workers don't even want to go in anymore, where workers are quitting, they're walking away. And the other ones, he wants to fire. And if he gets away with all of that, guys, you may not be on a plane, but it may be a ham and cheese sandwich you eat. It may be somebody driving in a car that falls apart on the highway. Maybe a building that's not up to code that falls on your head. But a lot more of us are going to die needlessly because of him. Fight him and fight him now. And that has been one of my more impassioned takedowns, which I hope you found something positive in. Now I will let my favorite Ozarkian. Was that enough, or should I have said more?
I got the last bit of it, but it was good. It was. I think you dunked him in the trash pretty good there.
Well, I'd like.
That's where he belongs, really, honestly. So
I can't say it enough times. This is the problem. I'm going to have to write it for the Substack. Is what it comes down to. Because the one thing I found writing at Substack is sometimes, and I'm not one who I think many would argue has trouble expressing themselves. But
I would not say that, no.
But you know what? There are some things I can't even find to put into words orally that I have to write on paper because I have to sit there and just think about it for a little bit because it doesn't do it justice. All of the names I called them do not do it justice. Like the scum-sucking, just absolutely repulsive troll he is, and that people knew this and voted for this thing as president.
He's such a loser, isn't he? He's a loser.
He is. And I don't just say that. Right. I don't just say that as like, hey, I'm going to pick on the kids, who aren't so cool or something like that. It's not that. It's that it's the rise of first of all, there are plenty of very nice kids who are smart, who are different, who are into theater, who are maybe a little nerdy in their work and whatever, and they're awesome. I counted many of them as my friends in school. I'm not talking about them. So lest anybody make a mistake that I'm pulling some Revenge of the Nerds, type thing here. I'm talking about those losers. I'm talking about the guys who sadly these days end up finding their way into a school sometimes with a hood on and a weapon. I'm talking about the angry loser little white boys who everybody hated, and it didn't matter that Donald Trump was left, had $400 million handed to him by daddy, and every job was given to him and whatever, because he's nothing on the inside and he knows it. He has no good qualities and he knows it. And I almost can't express it in maybe I did before. I tried, but I mean, the rage I have for him right now, and some of it I have to be careful because they'll come scoop me up if I say what I'm really thinking I'd like to do right now.
Not only do they not like when you say certain things about a president, but you're Jewish, my friend. That's
they love my kind.
The Nazis have a history of trying to.
Do. Well, listen, Jesus couldn't hide from us. That's all I'm saying.
He's joking, folks. That's why I'm laughing because it's funny.
Please know I'm joking, everybody. Well, somebody in there, I said, it's funny. I was going to say it, and I realized my rant was getting too long. But somebody in there, this is what I always tried to explain to everybody when they said, gun control is going to get thrown into the dust. And we don't have enough of that as it is, obviously. Just wait. Entertain, oh fools. Just wait until gun control. And I was going to talk about was their playbook. This exact playbook is what the NRA has run for about 30 years now with the ATF. Do you realize the ATF does not even have computers? They're not allowed to because they may track us They have to sit there and look through old files of paper, like it's 1970, to try to look up gun when somebody's bought a gun illegally. They don't allow them to coordinate with each other. They cut their funding all the time, so they have to let go of personnel. They attack them and demonize them and get people to do things like blow up buildings in Oklahoma City where they're headquartered so that people don't want to be in the ATF, don't want to enforce gun laws. This is what they're now doing. What they've done with that, and we've seen the results, right, is what they're trying to do with all of our government now.
FAA. That's why yesterday 67 Americans got killed, is because Donald Trump has blood on his hands, and he's going to do whatever he can to make sure that the owners of him, the monopoly state who own him hook, line, sinker, get exactly what they want, which is deregulated states so they can put more money in their pockets, because regulations on things like air travel cost companies money. It costs them money to be safe, and it costs money to keep us safe. And that's why they don't want it. They don't want it because they want more money in their pockets. They don't care about us. They don't give a shit about Americans. They never have. They may never. But
No.
I have a feeling that there could be a societal shift, that there is a rebellion against this idea that we hold our richest people to the highest pedestal, but the lowest standard in this country. We hold them to a high standard and we keep them on a low pedestal. They do not need to be elevated in society. They have plenty of money. They have plenty of means. That we don't need to elevate them anymore. We don't need to elevate their egos, and we definitely don't need to be putting up with them buying politicians to make us unsafe and killing us. Like, we do not need to put up with that.
Honestly, like I do this for you. Leave. You don't love this country. I promise you will be whatever tax dollars you actually pay, which is probably normally nothing, and if you do is very little, we'll be much better off without you. That you're destroying our environment, wrecking consumers, wrecking our economy, your freaking crony capitalism, where you hire incompetent boobs because they're your best friend. Like that. I mean, again, we got this stuff in the past. We understood that crony capitalism, the biggest enemy of capitalism, of real capitalism, regulated capitalism that works, is crony capitalism, where you don't make it anywhere because you actually did something good. It's all who you know. And that's the entire Trump administration.
I mean, that's how their entire system is set up. That's how the monopoly state is set up. That's how they want it structured. I mean, that's why they love fascism, because that's basically the perfect system for them. It's not because they have some sort of, akin to that ideology. It's just that ideology bolsters their ability to absolutely take advantage of us and rape and pillage our wallets and our retirements and our communities and our budgets and our governments, and put it all in their pockets. That's probably the saddest part about all of this, is the people behind Project 2025 and are funding it. They don't actually believe that garbage. They don't believe that trash. They just using it as a tool to control us and put our money and our labor and our livelihoods in their pockets. That's it.
I mean, what I encourage everybody to do, and I see Skyleigh has joined us a bit early. Urich, who I was going to tell you about, is going to be our guest. I'll get you in here in a minute or two, Skyleigh. But I encourage everybody because, for me, when I studied history on a graduate level, it's eye-opening. And again, you need to sort of always remember that, and I point this out every time, the 30s through the 80s were not good times if you weren't a white guy, okay? The racism, Jim Crow, the women, I mean, even now not being paid equally, but the way women were treated, didn't have control of their bodies completely, we're back to that again. And
couldn't even get a bank account. They couldn't even get a bank account
or a credit card. I mean, your husband's property, basically. If you in any way, I mean, don't even think about coming out of the closet. So I need to point all that out. But what I do also point out is, if you looked at where we were and how we spoke about things economically, when we had a 91% tax rate, and even later on, like a 75% tax rate, when it was considered your patriotic duty to pay taxes, it was a form of service. You served your country. Bill, I'll never forget George Romney, Mitt Romney's dad, who Joe Biden actually gave a medal to, who ran one of the big car manufacturers, would not accept a higher salary than the one he was getting. He could have gotten more, but he said it would be unpatriotic that his workers should get some of that. And he still was making 8, 10 times whatever as much as they were making, maybe 12 times as much as they were making. Not 300 though, like today. The point is that there just was this belief system that if you gouged people, if you helped foreign countries at the expense of your own, obviously, just to make money, you were a traitor. They may not have even used that word, but you were not a patriot. You did not believe in your. This is the way. I encourage you all, just look at newspapers, look at any form of media from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. Again, the stuff about race and the stuff about gender will be horrible, but we had it right economically. As we've gone forward socially, we've gone absolutely in the opposite direction, backwards economically.
You know, and that might not be a part of the broken system, but that might be part of the rigged system. Isn't that the point when they actually started to elevate people into society? They decided that they would go to war with them economically and if they couldn't drag them down through their human rights, they would drag them down through their economic rights. It's exactly what is happening. It's exactly what has happened. They decided to turn their assault on us as people. And they know that black and brown people are part of the great American working class. They know that women are part of the great American working class. They know that gay people, trans people, they know that they're part of the great American working class. And the only way to keep us, the have-nots, from coming on a full-on assault in our government and with our government towards the haves and tax them into oblivion, is that they keep us divided. And that is why I say we need to drop this culture war stuff. We need to lean into the class war, and we need to get the war on greed started. That's the war we need to fight. That's where we need to go, because that lifts all boats. That lifts all people. That lifts all colors, all religions, all genders, our identities. We don't need to debate that anymore. We don't need to have those conversations anymore. They can get bent with that stuff. We focus on the economics. We focus on what the actual argument is, and we get away from this left versus right, this red versus blue, and we get to the up versus down argument. We get to the have versus the have-nots, the people who own it all versus the people who own nothing.
I'll say just quickly, and then I want to introduce Skyleigh because she's perfect to bring to this as someone who did serve our country and who is honorable, unlike our current sitting commander-in-chief. But everything you're saying about that is exactly right. And when you go into the broader issues, whether a woman controls her body or not is an economic issue. It may be a personal issue too, but you have no control over your economic destiny if you can't control your body. If you can't get a job somewhere because these people now are saying, well, you're a DEI hire. I'm not gonna. I mean, everything is part of this economic fight. Let me introduce Skyleigh all over. Is it? No, it's Urich. I'm pronouncing your last name wrong. And it's because I've only Urich. See, look, I'm an idiot. I've only seen it in writing.
No, it's confusing.
I'm confused all the time. So
it's my married name. So yeah, it's new to me too.
I'm just happy when my lights and my microphone are working here, if I'm going to be honest with you. And I don't know, have you ever met Tony Michaels before?
I've never met him, but I've talked to him. Hey, Tony. Good to see you.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you. I'm glad you're coming on Cliff's show and spreading your message. And
oh yeah,
it seemed like you're in this fight too, where you wanna shift this argument from the culture that we have already won, that is off the table. We human rights are off the table for me. And I want to get to the heart of the kitchen table and what it means to have or have not on that kitchen table. And by that, I want to say, Cliff, thanks for having me on. I've got to go, speaking of economic issues, I got to go pick up a kid from school. So
that is an important economic issue.
That is an important economic issue, because not my butt will be in a ringer. So my economic safety depends on me being on time. So good to meet you, Skyleigh, and Cliff. We'll talk soon. Thank you very much.
Take it easy, buddy. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Tony.
All right. Well, you know what? It's so funny because I only obviously seen your name in writing, and I don't know why my eyes put an L in there. I mean, it's never been there, but for some reason, when I would look, I would see an L, and I wonder why that is.
I think it's actually spelt. There's another last name really close to it that does have an L.
Okay. So that must be what it is.
Sense.
Well, Nothing like getting it wrong the first time. Maybe I can, even get your name right most of the times after this.
Yes.
I want to ask you a number of things. First, you sent me a bio, but I'd love for people, if you're cool with it, to tell everybody about their background. I gave a little bit about your being a veteran, but why don't you share, however much you want. It can be 15 seconds. It doesn't have to be that much, just a little bit.
High level. Okay. Okay. Yep. My name is now Skyleigh Urich. I'm newly married a year, so my name has changed, so it gets me off as well. I am 42 years old. I served in the US Army from 2000 to 2004. So I went in under Clinton and came out under Bush. So I experienced all that fun. I got out of the military in 2004. I was a business analyst. I've been in the VA. Let me backtrack. I've been in the VA system since 2004. So I've been working with veterans before social media, before all of that stuff even became a part in the actual hospitals, just doing advocacy through that aspect. So I've been working in the VA for veterans for over 20 years. And I came out publicly as an activist when Trump took office in 2016. Um, Came out
Yep.
a little bit, unpolished and screaming F-bombs, but eventually got my way to working with, people in office and the White House and organizations like Vote Vets. And that's what I do now. I just scream to holy high hell when my benefits are getting messed
Well,
with.
we need you there to do that. I mean, I saw this
Mhm.
past week. First, I'll just laugh at Thomas Lind here. Thank you for that. You may be right. He knows my musical taste, as I've shared it on here many times. So that could be where I'm doing it. It could be a little bit of a Metallica mix up with your last name. With well done. But what I was going to say to you is, I wanted to have you on. I mean, I've wanted to have you on for a while in general because you're compelling, smart, interesting, and I've always seen it on social media. But first, one of the things that got me almost is no, actually, as angry as Trump, as seeing Trump blame before. I'm sure he's called, and he never will call a single family member of the 67 Americans who died in Washington. I don't know how many were on also the Blackhawk who died too. Um,
3.
but before
Mhm.
that is immediately saying Biden DEI like a parrot, just out of his mouth immediately. And that's why I did my first rant today on that, because I enraged me. And I felt that way about a week ago. I mean, again, what is time these days? When Trump's in a time stands still to quote rush. I don't know what, so I mean, I think it was a week ago, but tell me wrong, when he said when they were going to cut veterans health care. And I mean, the people you recruited, convinced to go, and frankly lied to in certain cases. I don't know, Iraq. I'm not saying I believe that there are wars that are noble and are necessary. I do believe the war in Afghanistan was noble. I don't believe how we fought it was. I don't believe the strategy made any sense to me when we were trying to capture a couple of people and those that surrounded them to turn it into the longest war in American history. But I'll let you talk whatever. But my point is to you is I'm not. We convince folks to go to war and make the ultimate sacrifice or take a risk, the ultimate sacrifice, coming back with obviously so many cases PTSD and other ailments, and then we're going to cut their health care. I mean, to me, that's one of those things. And so I thought I had to have you on. And then when the Hegseth hearing started, I thought no matter which way it went, I wanted you here to talk about it. So whichever topic you'd like to begin with.
It's I experienced him in 2016. He really enraged me. He talked. I mean, he blocked Vote Vets who represent like over 1 million veterans. He blocked them on Twitter his first few months in office. Like, this is a man that has shit on us, spit on us, degraded us at every single turn he can. He thinks that we are suckers and losers. That's why he hates when we say it, because he knows that it's a truth that's been told. And wants to, he has wanted for a long time. He wanted to do this his last term. He wanted to privatize the VA. Everybody, they want to privatize the VA so the broligarchs can continue their extreme network of taking over our country and killing us in the process. Um,
Amazing.
people and people
yeah, go
ask
ahead.
me constantly one thing that well, they all voted for Trump. They voted for Trump. They voted for Trump. They voted for his lies. And you know, I
And they
don't
didn't
hold
all vote for
everyone's
Trump.
list
Let's be honest. I don't know what the percentages were. Yes,
right,
many
but
more than we would like, considering what he's had to say, as you pointed out, and attacking Gold Star families and all the things he's done. But it is important to say, people. I mean, again, disinformation is one of the big things I talk about on here. And we're not doing
every
anything
group
about it
has
still.
every group has them. Every group has them. The military has them. The you know, the veteran group has them. It's just a way of life. Some people are going to look the other way, and it is the kind of blindfold mentality that they teach you in the military, because in the military you're not allowed to speak out about anything. You're not allowed to have an opinion. You just, you know, as far
Because
as
you shouldn't.
political wise,
You shouldn't be divided. You're
political.
American, right? I mean, like, that's the point.
They keep politics out of the military for a reason. You know, you don't talk about it, but then on the downside, it keeps you ignorant to the facts that you need to know to make really good decisions and when you vote. That's the
Yep.
problem. Um, but the veterans cuts is something that resonates across every red, blue, everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. I have never met one person, and I've met a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people that said, "Nah, I don't think that you deserve your care for the stuff that you went through. I just don't agree with my tax dollars going there." It's the
Yeah.
one place people do agree with where their tax dollars go.
And it's the
And
best military, it's the best healthcare. It's even better than Medicare. It's the only, single payer or even socialist, I guess,
it's tailored
system.
towards us. It's tailored towards veterans. It's tailored towards everything that we go through, from mental to physical to everything. They're specialized doctors, and it has taken a long time to build it to where it even is.
Yep.
And so his
And the
cuts of
generosity of it.
540 billion, you know, just he's literally hitting everywhere that we can, as far as not just the actual VA, he's hitting our benefits. Our
So,
our
right.
benefits for disability.
I was just going to say, I mean, again, I do not have the experience you have, but the one experience I do have with it, my dad was in the Merchant Marine, was a lieutenant commander at the Merchant Marine Academy, which people don't tend to know as well, but it is one of the 5 federal academies, like the
Right.
Army, Navy,
Mhm.
Air Force, Marines, and then there's the Merchant Marine Academy, because in times of war, we need to keep trading, and there are guys that need to know how to fight while doing that. And my dad was there for 25, 30 years. And I can say, when he got older, he had heart disease, and the way that healthcare program treated him, I mean, they covered so much more than anything else, even Medicare wouldn't have come close to covering. It was such a terrific healthcare program, and we were so thankful that he had it. And so I kind of understand. I get what I don't know what else to call them. These sons of bitches are going after, because they just want to pocket the damn money. They want to take us apart and take the parts. And I mean, and let me give it back to you. But I just want to let you know, I do know, I have some experience and know how good it is, and that they would try to destroy that is sickening, really.
I mean, his freeze, you know, that didn't go into the effect that he tried to pull on all of us. It was freezing, you know, resources for the suicide line, suicide prevention, training, like all of these things that are just barbaric. They're barbaric. They're terrible.
Yes.
And the thing that we need to do is we need to tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody, because no one agrees with this. No one agrees
No.
with him putting us out in the cold. No one agrees with him trying to cut our benefits. The only ones that do agree with them are trying to make money off of us, and that is completely unfair. It's
Yep.
just we are always fighting for better care. So when you come at it with just cuts, you know, and veterans that did vote for Trump will see that. It will affect them, and they will come to the table and say, wait a minute, what is going on? Because just like when the whole Medicaid thing, Cliff, I mean,
Yep.
everybody was like, whoa, hold the phone.
There are
It's
a
the
lot of
same
people
thing for
finding out
veterans.
lately, which we talk about off and on here. And I just, it tells me that I've brought this up. It's one of my, I don't know. It's one of the things that I talk about. So I probably bored people by now with it, but somehow evolution failed. I don't know where along the way, but when you can be when somebody can call you a sucker and a loser and this and that, and you vote for them, when somebody can say, hi, I'm going to deport your family, and you vote for them, when somebody can say, I'm going to literally blow up the entire Middle East, and you vote for them, when somebody can say, I'm going to raise your taxes and cut the rich guys, and you vote for them, like attack your union. There's so many people that this man personally and as a group insulted who were large numbers,
On a
not
daily
everybody.
basis.
Yeah, not everybody, not always even, a majority. But, when I looked at like the one I brought up often, and again, I don't mean to single out a group because I always point out if 45% of one group voted for something, 55% did not. And so don't, say a whole group is anything. But I got to say, I was shocked when I saw that I think it was 47% of Latino men voted for him. And I was just like, after all the
What
talk
is
of
going
deportation
on?
and all the, and he's doing it now. Do you see that picture? I don't know if that was fake or not, of the guy with the Latinos for Trump shirt who was handcuffed. I think it
That
was
was
fake.
questionable.
I
That
think
was
it's fake.
questionable.
Yeah, I
It's
thought it was fake
questionable.
too. But
I didn't dig on that one. It's very easy to put the
yeah, that was what I thought
little,
too. But in a way, I thought
but
it
it
was
was
a good
symbolic,
image
right?
for people to see because it summarized all of it for everybody.
It really does. It really does. And, even like right before the election, that comedian that made the comments about Puerto Rico, like if you
Yeah,
would have thought anything was going to change, and that's when all the Latino people came at the end when they were insulted, and it was too late. It was too late. We as a whatever the Democratic Party, we needed to be much better at reaching out to them and being there to show them the truth, because obviously we failed,
we need to build
because
the
that
networks.
percentage was crazy.
Yeah, we need to build the networks. We need to fight disinformation. Look, I even whatever group I want to say I come from. Certainly, if I define myself by my state, I'd be in a lot of trouble. Living in Ohio, at least in Cincinnati here, I can say we were about 85% for Kamala, and the broader Hamilton County around Cincinnati was about 65, 70%. So, but Ohio, but it doesn't matter. Even when it's a minority of your group, like, I'm not religious or anything like that, but I talk about my background is Jewish, right? The fact to me that somewhere I'd have to look at the numbers, 20 to 25%, even if it was a minority like that. And if it was 20 to 25% overall, you can bet it was closer to 30% of Jewish men. Because of course the men always over women. So that means somewhere towards 30% of people like me looked at this guy who had was a fascist, who had a book of, had Mein Kampf next to his bed, who's buddies with good old Elon, Hail Hitler, Musk, and thought this was a good thing to do. I just, it's incredible to me. It's incredible.
A lot of them did not see all the extra. They saw what the news media showed them. And that is what truly, and the news didn't cover Trump as they should have covered Trump.
Of course.
Corporate media has
A
just gone to
joke.
shit. Right. Let's just say it's a fucking joke. We're here bringing the truth.
Yeah,
We're
they're one
here
of my
breaking
hobby
it
horses
down.
on this show. All the time, my whole thing to people is, the model has fallen apart. I don't think it was ever a great model to begin with. People are like, well, what happens if they die? And my response is always, let them die. And let the Washington Post go out of business. I've got a Substack. I'm growing it now. We've seen people leave everywhere from the Washington Post to just Jim Acosta just left CNN and started a Substack. Let
Yeah.
independent platforms, Substack, Patreon, use StreamYard, let those places rise to the top. And the few guys that aren't corporate owned, like the Philly Inquirer, that is an intelligent, liberal, truthful newspaper because it's owned by a private foundation. make those your papers of choice, and otherwise go to independent creators. But
Yeah.
you're just, I don't care if people say, well, the New York Times does great investigative journalism. Well, that's terrific. But if their politics page helped elect a fascist, what does that matter? Because there won't be any investigations anymore, because those people will be fired or will disappear.
They completely they I mean, we saw it. We saw it implode to its biggest height during his, especially at the end when he seemed like he was just going to hit the ground at any moment of that campaign. I was
Uh-huh.
waiting for him to just tumble over and face plant into
Yeah.
something because he was so out of it mentally, physically. He was looked terrible at the end of his
He did.
campaign.
He really did. I mean, you
He
know, and
really did. And
physically, mentally, he's like swaying to every version of Ave Maria that's ever been created. And I mean, he was
people
nuts.
are saying he's having mini strokes and shit. I mean, it was pretty bad. And then it's like, okay.
Yep.
But the media didn't cover it like that. They didn't cover him like that. They didn't
Yep.
cover the atrocities that he was saying. But now, woo, look at what he's doing. Like,
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like, and again, we've talked about this plenty of times, but objectivity isn't looking at two things that are completely different and saying, let's pick a middle spot and say everything's 50-50. Objectivity is telling the truth. And if one side, and for this example, to make the point, I'll just say, what if it were Democrats who are doing horrible, corrupt, fascist, just cruel things 98.3% of the time, then 98.3 of the percent of the time is how often Democrats should have negative coverage versus Republicans on having 1.7%, right? Obviously, the sad thing is it's just about opposite, where a couple Republicans do something good here, a couple do something good there, but most of the time, nothing that you can find, and the rest of the time, we're all treated like everything's equal. No big deal, no biggie. It's all the same. It drives me
it's
insane.
not all the same.
And Pete Hegseth. Sorry, I
And
have to. And if it's for any reason triggering for you or anything, and you don't want to, we don't have to. But
well, no, I mean, I covered all of his confirmations, I did that. It was very PTSD for me. I mean, I had some Kavanaugh reactions for sure.
yeah,
It really brought me there, and I was part of the why I didn't report movement. So it really, especially in the military, it just really, but I got through that just because I wanted to, capture what a piece of shit and, danger to society that he is and still is. I'm Here's the one thing that okay, I'm fighting and battling, and I have to do every time that it is threatened that our military is going to involve civilians in any type of action. People, of
I
course,
mean,
freak out about that.
military shooting civilians or something. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like how people are, oh, Trump's gonna get him to have military shoot protesters, and so the people all of a sudden start thinking, oh, the military is just gonna follow an order like that. They're gonna actually do that, and I constantly have to battle with people, like this is not 1930s or 40s Germany. This is 2025 American soldiers, and they're there to protect you. They're not gonna hurt you. Yeah, they have a bad few that would do something bad, but let me tell you, like, that's a very small percentage, and it'd have to be hidden. It would have to be a hidden thing. I hate the
And
shit
that's what
they're
he's trying to
getting.
corrupt, right? I mean, because what was able to stop him that first time, which again, for any student of American history in the 60s and 70s would be shocking, when when there were military generals who were refusing orders, and I think about bombs away LeMay, who had to be fired, and I think of that kind of thing. I think of CIA agents and the church hearings, on what the rogue operations. And the irony is, it was the FBI, CIA, and military were the three groups that made me feel like there wouldn't be a coup on January 6th and afterwards. Like, they were the ones I trusted most, who were indoctrinated, not the right word because it has a negative connotation, but were educated in the American system, in the importance of democracy, and the importance of, as you said, being apolitical, serving your country, and all of that. Like they were the ones I trusted more than any government official under Donald Trump. I mean,
and just because Pete has taken over does not take away from that. I mean, it goes deep. You know what I mean? The military is over 3 million people. It's the most diverse organization in the world. Okay. I had my sergeants when 9/11 happened and we got orders. I had sergeants that were in leadership that were getting out from Desert Storm. And I looked at them and I said, why are we going? What is the point of this? I'm so confused. And they said, we don't know, but we promise that we'll protect you and we won't make you do anything, that is not right. And that is, people don't serve their country to hurt Americans or to hurt anyone else. We
Yep.
don't like going to war. War is not fun. On a normal basis, we have a normal job and work just like everybody else. War is contingent of what we signed up for. But even when we go to another country, we're there
Yeah.
to support humanitarian aid support, Cliff. We're not there to shoot.
Of course.
people.
War is a last resort. You would hope. There have been a few that have violated that, but it should always be a last resort because at best, as we all know, try to plan any multifaceted operation. I don't care on a soccer field and 15 things go wrong. Now try it in a war zone where people have weapons that kill each other. There's going to be friendly fire. There are going to be things that aren't going to happen the way they should. So of course, just having common sense tells you that anywhere where we're going to involve human lives, our troops and where human lives of civilians may be at risk, it would be much better to not do that. But of course, there are times we don't have that choice. I get it, and obviously fully support those wars when we've had to. And I would even say it's interesting you brought up the diversity aspect because look, I'm not going to claim there's a whole lot of good that comes out of major world wars. But one of the very interesting outgrowths of both World War I and World War II was that Black troops went abroad and were in countries and saw how other Black, members in the or just folks in the Netherlands and France and places like that were being treated so much better. And that helped the civil rights movement here. Granted, I'm not arguing we should have a war so that we can get to civil rights. It shouldn't take, anything close to that. I'm just making the point that at least out of something horrible, that was one of the positive outgrowths, and that led, of course, to Truman taking that first step and desegregating the military, and I think people serving with each other. I'm a big believer that we should have required national service because I think it makes you go around. It makes you spend time around people different than you and get an understanding. This is a big country. I've been up in the hollers in Eastern Kentucky. I've been into the Central Valley of California. I've been to the biggest cities, to in the Everglades, the whatever. I think I'm starting to sound like I'm singing a Billy Joel song or something. But the point is that I've been lucky enough to go to a lot of different parts of this country, and we all may be American or whatever, but there are a lot of differences, and I think it would do us a lot of good. And that's what I think you do in the military is you have to learn about different cultures, different regions, different people, and you learn that there are people that are actually different than you.
Everybody in the military is definitely that place, and you don't have to leave the United States to find that. You find that within the branches. You have people, you have people from all of the U.S. territories that are there. You have people from every culture, every color, everywhere, and you're all forced to work together.
Yes.
And you learn a commonality and you have respect for each other. I feel like nowadays people focus on the bad apples of the military more than the good, which is way more than the bad. But
that's a shame. And again, there are some terrible things done. Skyleigh massacre. I'm not going to even say them because it belittles them. There are horrific things done in war, and we all know that. But I do think sometimes then we put that on the vast majority of military soldiers who perform their service for their country honorably, and that's not fair. And it's not fair when we're on the left because it happens from the left sometimes. It's not fair when we do that. I'm sorry. Yeah, they're bad apples and they're terrible people.
Both ways.
There are people who I'm sure, join the military because they want to be able to shoot a gun. And then there are a lot of other people who join the military for the right reasons. Okay. And I'd say, I would guess the vast majority do it family history and honor and for the right reasons and not for
Uh,
the wrong ones.
Yep.
So, I mean,
And
that,
we just got to keep that mentality going forward because, you know, Pete Hegseth is going to try some shit. And, you know, I really don't think he's going to get away with as much as people think he will get away with. I think we have to also remember that and remind people that an executive order isn't law. It has to go through the checks and balances before it becomes anything. And you know, Trump's an executive order every 5 seconds, and he like issues them from, you know, Truth Social as well. So
right.
people need to just kind of like hit the stop button before they, you know, it shows his intentions, just like the whole freeze thing. It shows his intentions, but you know, it's the people spoke. It's not going to happen. Like we're not going to lie down, and we're not going to just take it. And I think
Good.
that people need to kind of just,
Right. I
because
mean,
it's
and that,
scary. It's scary.
well, I still, again, I know they're bad folks in the military, the way they're bad folks in business,
And
nonprofits,
everything.
everywhere, right? The point is
Hmm.
that, look, you know, there's a reason why they're retaliating against General Milley right now, because he did the right thing, you know, A, in telling Trump, no, that's illegal. You're not going to shoot people. B, keeping us out of, I don't know, what could have maybe been a nuclear war with China when they saw what was going on here on January 6th and started to ready their forces, which,
Yeah.
gee, I'm glad the media reported less on that than, you know, any other dumb
Anything.
thing, you know, whatever, you know, one Khloe Kardashian was doing that week or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
like, seriously, China was readying their armed forces. I don't know what level of readiness they're on. You may know that stuff better than me, but to the point where we noticed it with our satellites and he felt a need to call them and say it's going to be okay. That is the position, you know, that Donald Trump put us in. And that's General Milley stood up and stopped that. And I just think, again, you may not agree with everybody's politics who's in the military. You may not agree with everything Milley says or whatever, but that's not the point here. He was an American. He served democracy. He served peace by doing that. He served the law by
Yep.
telling Trump what he was going to, when he was going to shoot people, it was illegal. So, you know, that's why, of course, you know, he and others like him had to
They're
be pushed
going
out.
after him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because he told his truths. And you know, General, and you, just like you said, I did not always agree with General Miley, but every picture that General Miley is in with Trump, and I have almost every one, he was looking at him with the most horrible, this man is egregious eyes in every single picture. And I was just like, thank you, because at least I know that someone's close to him that's gonna, you know, hates him as much as we do. But it was just these eyes of just, you
well,
know, you motherfucker.
well, we've all
So
made sacrifices, right? I mean, we've all done certain things. I did some work for the State Department where I went abroad on democracy promotion trips and things. And, you know, I'm not saying like that makes me a hero, but I served on the Innocence Project here on the board to try to help get innocent people out of prison, which
yeah,
we did some, I mean, I'm not saying it because it makes me special. I'm sure everybody who's in this chat, you, other people have done all sorts of service. But I would say you know, the military is a bit even of a different level. And I think the fact is that deep down, the reason why Trump hates them is because he knows and hates people like you is because he knows how much better you are. That you
exactly
actually
why.
aren't this greedy, slimy little get your grubby hands on everything that's good for you figure, that you believe in something bigger than yourself. And he has no ability to do that. And I just think that he hates you for it, is what I
He
think.
does. He does. And especially women, especially veteran
Oh my
women. He
God,
just has
yes.
so much disdain. I mean, they've already something Hegseth has done, he's already issued orders. They're basically no longer going to they're going to not celebrate, women celebrated holidays. Basically, the only things that they're still going to honor
Is
but
Christopher
not
Columbus Day probably?
celebrate is Juneteenth, and MLK will be observed because it's a federal holiday. But anything, they have already canceled all the commemorations of women throughout the military, special days,
They going to replace
people
them with
of
like
color, people, of gender. I mean, everything gone,
are they
canceled.
going to
Bye
replace
bye.
them with like a maybe a triumvirate, like a Quisling, Henri Patin, Benedict Arnold Day? Those are guys. Those are men,
It wouldn't
white guys.
surprise me.
It's sickening.
Yeah,
Um,
don't listen. Don't join the military in the next 4 years. I don't care who you are. Do not do it. And the reason I say 4 years is because I can only see 4 years ahead. I can't see 4 years after. My biggest advice to you is do not join the military, especially as a woman, especially as any type of diversity at this moment. It's going to be a toxic environment. I was in under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and that was terrible. It
God,
was
yeah.
freaking terrible. Okay. And I had most of my friends that were women were gay because they weren't catty. And I just got along better with them. And they were harassed all the time. They were written up if they were trying to look more like a man than a woman. It was just so bad. And the military has really progressed in that avenue over the
Oh my
last 20
gosh, I
years.
bet.
I mean, immensely. And they're rolling back the time, and they don't realize that this has made us a better military to be able and accept and embrace everybody, because it doesn't matter what color you are, what your gender is, anything. You're going to sit and fight right beside that person in a foxhole if needed. Like, it's a camaraderie. It wasn't a faux pas, and it created a terrible environment. Don't ask, don't tell. It did. It was
It did.
just
I mean,
terrible.
the only thing I would say about it is I would say is that, I mean, you can tell me if you disagree. I think that I have to believe, and I know President Clinton pushed that in because that was the only thing they could get. I
Yeah.
mean, my belief at the time certainly was it was worse beforehand, because before that it was, we can
It
ask you,
wasn't
but I don't know. You tell me if you don't think that improved things, then
it,
I fully accept that. You know better than me. You were there.
I wasn't into the prior before Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but I think it was just an artificial band-aid of the problem.
Yeah.
And why would I see people getting written up and getting harassed for things that they shouldn't have under Don't Ask, Don't Tell? So I think it was more just like a bright
I
rainbow to
gotcha.
help,
Because you'd be
you
worried
know.
everybody all the time that somebody's looking over your shoulder, kind of like right now in our country in
Yeah,
general.
right?
I have got conversations out with certain friends about, related to the fact that I work in politics on the phone. And I'm like, I'm really wondering. I kind of feel like I should just start having every one of those conversations on Signal at this point and just assume that anything that's not that of
Well,
any,
yeah, and have your messages disappear within a day, like,
yeah,
it's that
that's how
crucial, right?
that's how my Signal is set. I'm serious. Like, I feel like that, I already do Signal in terms of messaging with some people, but I feel like should I really
Yeah.
just move most of my phone calls? Because again, the two or political businesses I have, I mean, they both are to elect Democrats and not unelect Republicans. And I wonder why they would try to cheat.
Big brother, Big Brother's around. And I mean, we don't have an Alexa for that reason.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't have TikTok on my phone for that reason.
Me neither.
I'm
Me
like, I mean,
neither.
again, I'm like, TikTok's a lot of fun, and I'd like to have it and whatever, but like, I don't want Chinese malware on my phone. I mean,
Gosh, and it's funny how that just kind of slipped out of the headlines because everything else started coming. But, that was quite the snafu too, wasn't it now?
yeah,
Uh, the whole blackout, and then Trump wasn't even president yet, and TikTok naming him president and saying thank you for your
yeah.
back deal door, whatever you did.
Trump
Um,
saved everything. He saved TikTok. He obviously saved the Israeli hostages. Like, it was all his brilliance and genius and everything that he knows, and it nothing to do with other people benefiting politically. from kissing his butt in the same manner as Bezos and Zuckerberg at ABC News and, 1,000 other individuals or entities we could talk about. And that's where I
It's
started this whole show
disgusting.
off.
They're gonna start. I mean, this is just. I think a lot of people, and I have to remember too, Cliff. A lot of younger people weren't really around during the last Trump presidency, right? And
Yep.
so I think that, and I have to remember that because when I'm in my different groups and I have all these young people I'm talking to that are acting as if this is very new to them, and I'm thinking, okay, this is like 2.0 for real. This is 2.0 on steroids, right? This is what
Yeah.
he does. He drops orders that aren't legal and makes no sense. The people go crazy, and then it stops whatever he's doing. But I
It
mean,
broke my heart, honestly, about this. I mean, as a father, that my two sons were too young. Like they knew something bad happened in 2016 when we had folks over and we are going to have a party, and the party abruptly broke up. And one of my sons was, I think one was 7, one was 4. No, I'm getting my son's ages wrong. I'm an idiot. One was 9, one was 6, but whatever, it doesn't matter. They were young enough. My older son maybe had slight idea. My younger one really didn't. But this time, even as the election was going on, like they're like, he's not going to win, is he, Daddy? And I'm like, don't worry, we're gonna stomp him, whatever. I mean, what do you say to your kids? Like, I mean, I did think Kamala was going to win. I wasn't just lying to them. I really very strongly
right,
did. For a
right.
variety of reasons, but and now, like during their teenage years, formative years, one of my kids is going away to college in 7 months. They're gonna have to live through this just absolute cretin, like this subhuman Jabberwocky being our president. I
Yeah,
can't.
in those years of their life, yeah.
It just
It,
it so upsets me. It really does.
it,
I know you've been on here a while. I don't know how you're feeling about if you got. I'm happy to keep you on as long as you want, but I know what you had said about the
well,
time.
I just gave you a time, whatever you want. I can chit chat
Oh,
longer.
okay. I thought you'd
I
said a
usually
half
do
hour. Okay.
podcasts for longer,
And
but
this is sad, and I had seen something about this, but I'll just mention it, that I've seen a few people share in the chat here that there are 14 members who are their champions of the American ice skating team were on that airliner.
yes,
I mean,
yeah.
all humans are equal, and all humans lost. It's horrific. So please don't think I'm because
No,
they had a
it's
special
just a
skill, but
tragedy. I mean, the last time that this type of collision happened, I think it was like 2009. But I was in an aviation unit. I did train with Blackhawks. That was part of my job.
I didn't know
And
that.
whenever yeah, I worked with the Apache helicopters, which are the fighting helicopters, the Blackhawks, and then the little mosquito Kiowa ones.
So
We
can I
call them
ask you, like,
mosquitoes.
what would a Black Hawk helicopter be doing there to begin with? Do you,
They're personnel carriers. They could be just honestly, the first thing I said was, well, they labeled it as training, okay? And so I said, okay, so this was somebody's fuck up because this is what we say when we fucked up is
because
training.
yeah, you're
Um,
training, but wouldn't you train far the fuck away from a civilian
why the
airport?
hell would you be training? I mean, we trained, and I was at what is Port Liberty? Is it called now Fort Hood? I mean, half of Fort Hood or Fort Liberty is 3 hours across. Okay, to get through this. This is where you train and you live and you fly before you fly over anything like Washington, D.C. I don't know where they were in their training.
That's
I
sort of my
don't know
thing,
the
right? There's a lot of
situation.
open land out there. We're a big country.
There's
We're not. I
it
mean,
just to me it just smells bad. I have no say on the insight or anything.
no,
Just from my experience, I was like, wow, like what were they doing there?
right.
If
Well,
you're
I'm
gonna if
blaming
you're
Donald
gonna
Trump
label it
because
training.
Donald Trump blamed Joe Biden, and Joe Biden's not president. Donald Trump is president. So I'm blaming Donald Trump because if that's all the evidence Donald Trump needs to blame Joe Biden, as far as I'm concerned, the guy that fired the TSA director 8 days ago and fired 400 upper levels of the members of the upper level of the FAA, and 3,000. This was my rant at the beginning, and 3,000, employees there, which has to equal tens or hundreds of thousands of hours of experience tossed out. Well, again, I sort of push that into the broader point of our modern administrative state, that has regulations, and went back even to the early 20th century, creation of the Food and Drug Administration under Teddy Roosevelt, creation of the Social Security Department and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation to make sure banks, don't run away with our money. And, was it 1933 or so, under FDR, and they're trying to undo all of this, like everything that keeps you safe from predatory bankers, safe from agribusiness, safe from highways that or cars on highways that may just blow up like a Tesla, or or highways that are not properly paved, or building codes. We know as a real estate guy, I'm sure Donald Trump never ever shaved off the corners and cut his way around building codes. He would never do something like that. And I'm sure he isn't trying to weaken that for his real estate friends. These are the things that are frightening, because again, I'm not going to, if I'm being honest for a second, I will say, no, I can't definitively say at all that this is because of Donald Trump. What I can definitively say is, when you make it clear that you're firing or pushing out with a little payment 2 million people, if you can get away with it, that you're firing another 50,000 civil servants and replacing them with political cronies like you're Stalin, and you're making government into something where you're referring to them, as I quoted here, as betraying the country, government workers being crooked and dishonest. Sounds like you looked a little bit in the mirror there. It reminds me, I did a lot of work. I talked to people here on gun safety, and some of the stuff they blocked with the laws, but there was another thing they did, which, by the way, eventually led to Oklahoma City, which is they demonized the ATF to the point of where they referred to them as jackbooted thugs who'd knock your door down and come into your house. They defunded them. They still, to this day, are not able to access computers. They literally have to look through old files because they don't want them to be able to find information on people who have firearms. It's like they hamstring them, they demonize them, they defund them, they do all of this. And that model has made us a much more dangerous country with gun violence. And now they're doing it with everything else. So again, I'll end where I began. I don't know that what happened because of that, but I know that it's the ghost of Christmas future. If Trump keeps doing this and gets away with this, that we're going to look at a lot of, kind of like when YouTube punishes me for mentioning certain words to do with a certain disease from a couple years ago because of all the conspiracy theories spread. So I don't say the word, even though it's ridiculous. Thank you, Big Brother. But let's just say that the Lancet Foundation releasing a report that 400,000 people who died from a certain disease in 2020 did not have to. If this guy hadn't denied it and told people it was okay, and that's what we're looking at here, right? Like
He's just, it's very blatant that he is literally out to destroy the working class American people, the people of diversity, everything that isn't white. It's like what they're calling that he's doing, and they're doing in the military. It's a white out.
Yep.
Because that is what is happening. I mean, they were trying to pass. I don't think it passed, but honestly, it triggered me a lot because I am like going through fertility treatments and stuff. So anything with fertility or anything like that really triggers me on certain things. And I saw the Republicans in Congress are trying to pass the bill. It was the Reproductive Health Surveillance Act. I mean,
God, they even put that word in there.
They want to track our apps on our phones. They want all of our information, and that's all to curtail to make a white freaking America.
Yes.
But this is
in the end,
not.
that's what it's all about. White replacement theory is that we become
racism.
A more diverse country, and they can't stand it.
And the country is too diverse for that. Too diverse for that. I mean, and so many of us are, biracial and have, Hispanic husbands. My husband, it's just, you can't. JD Van, look, I mean, his own people have
That's what's
biracial.
amazing is members of MAGA were actually starting to
But it's
turn.
okay for them, but not okay for the rest
Well,
of
actually, certain
America.
members of MAGA were getting angry at them and starting to turn on them and attack them for having too many Indians around, like J.D. Vance's wife and Vivek Ramaswamy. And I was like, "Hey, good. I have no sympathy for you.
They're
This is
also
what you
because
do to the rest of us. Now you get to have a little bit of it in your face."
well, the Indians are mad. Yeah. They're mad at the Indians because of the H-1B1, I think,
That's right.
visa,
It's the visas.
and
Yep.
comes in and takes all their jobs. And it's true. My husband experiences it all the time. It's a terrible program. It really is. Like, they've corrupted it with
Oh,
what
of
they do.
course.
I mean, it's I've seen it. I've watched it. He's been with the company for 10 years, you know. I have tons of Indian like family, like they're like family. Like when you become friends with someone, you know, like Hindu, they become
Yeah.
your family. And they even told me over Christmas, it's wrong. It's giving us a bad name. It's wrong. I mean, our Indians are the third largest population in America now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And talk about
Well,
that's what he was making MAGA mad about, that because he supports that type of
well,
immigration.
think about the system there, right? Think about the system, which is why put the money into better educating Americans who you'll have to pay more money to work
Yep.
when you can just import folks that were educated abroad and pay them like a third or a fourth of the salary to do the same work. I mean, that's the theory behind it.
That's what it is. That's what it
Um,
is. And it's a problem. It's a problem. I feel
yeah,
bad for like my husband in those situations because you know he's been with the company for 10 years, and next thing you know, so and so comes and they don't know what they're doing. They lie about their like their certifications and stuff. They don't really know the job at all. And you know, it they end up having to teach them, and it's just a mess. It's a mess. That part is a mess. But
it is. Well,
you know,
again, and there's the very simple kind of way that program could have been created for certain exceptions and for certain diversity and this and that. But what happens, like with so many things, is the Elon Musks of the world get their hands on these things and corrupt them to the point where they're
exactly,
unrecognizable for what they were meant for. Now it's sort of, I'm
exactly.
going to use it. I'm going to import as many Indians as I can to pay one quarter. I win doubly. I don't have to. I can pay one quarter or whatever it is of what I would have to pay otherwise to an American, and on top of it, I don't have to have my taxes raised to go to public schools to strengthen them. So win-win. You know.
Again, part of the oligarchy system.
Yep. Even though, of
It's
course, Elon here, by all we can tell, I'll say allegedly, worked here illegally, but it looks pretty fishy. Hasn't provided the paperwork to prove yet that when he was
I
working
mean,
on PayPal,
Biden said he came on a student visa. You know, that's Biden called him out. Biden's
yeah,
like,
he
he's
stayed
gonna be
after that, which is what the
he's
biggest form, by the way, of undocumented workers here. They're not. This is another lie Republicans tell. They're not climbing over borders. They're coming here on educational visas, and then they're
really
staying. That's what
exactly.
happens. But you don't want to
Yeah.
talk about
So
them
it's
because a
just like
lot of them are from places that have white people. So it doesn't create quite the image of hordes of Latinos or Latinos coming from Latin America, working
where did all those
caravan.
hordes go? You know, where did all those hordes go, Cliff? Why aren't they being mass rounded up right now across the like there's deportations happening. But let's
Yes.
be real. The size that he said that they were, like millions, like ready to go out the gate. I think he's maybe
He
tried
kept
to deport like 1,000 people.
he kept making up numbers. It would get like bigger and bigger. Like 12 million, 47 million of them. It was like, you remember that there was that time where he kept repeating that, was it 113% or something of jobs, black jobs, which I love that, of course, black jobs.
Black
What's
jobs.
Michelle Obama hit him back nicely on
Yeah,
that one. But
yeah.
113% of black jobs were being taken by immigrants coming in here, undocumented workers, and it was like, yeah, dude. I know you like to brag about that word in education, but it seems like there may have been a class you missed. The stats class. Did you not go to that one? Um, you know.
He just throws numbers to the wind. Whatever sounds good in his demented brain is what happens. Now, I don't want to take away from the fact that right now deportations are happening. ICE is going into places. It is definitely happening.
Oh yeah.
I just thought that by the way that they spoke, that it would be hundreds of thousands being deported at this point, and there would be a visible, the
Yep.
news would be all over that, like they
Well,
were when there
as
was
a military person, I mean, right away we've got posse comitatus. So when he was talking about the military coming into our cities, at that point, you've completely violated the Constitution to such a level that we really fully, if he were to do that and get away with it, then we are a full dictatorship. Like it's not even a question mark anymore at that
there
point.
is there and I agree, and I addressed this as soon as it came, but there is a part in posse comitatus where if he invokes the
Emergency powers, right?
Insurrection Act,
Oh my God, the
for the
irony.
irony of everything. If he invokes the Insurrection Act, then yes, he can. It's one of the only ways you can get around posse comitatus, and he can use the military police to go into community, and that's what his
I
plan
would
is.
hope they would refuse it because if they don't, that's it.
Well,
I
what's
mean, that
the
is
insurrection? What's the insurrection? You can't just say, oh, there's an insurrection. You have to have evidence to be able to push it that far. But that is the direction he is going in. And that is the direction he gave them. He gave Hegseth 40 days
I
to
don't, you know
basically,
why I
so he
don't
can
think he'll do
fill
it?
the borders.
The only reason I don't think he'll do it, and this is sad, really, because it's not. Again, it's not based on that there's any decency, any reality, any whatever. I don't think he'll do it because I think it could cause chaos, and it will cause chaos, and the kind of chaos
It
where
will
enough
cause chaos.
innocent people are killed that the police will pay. I mean, the press will actually have to pay attention, and there'll be more of a spotlight on him. And really, all he wants, all of this stuff. Is he a racist? Absolutely. Is he a sexist? Absolutely. Is he anti-Semite? Is he, anti-gay? All of that stuff. But his real goals in running for president were twofold: to stay out of prison and to do what he can't do with his own talents or lack thereof, which is to enrich himself by stealing every last cent from the public coffers and using, the crypto scams like he did right before. So the only reason I don't think he'll do it is if he does anything that big and that controversial, then the spotlight that will be on him, to where even he'll lose some of his own Republicans, not a lot because they mostly suck, but a few of them, it would be counterproductive to what he wants to do. He wants to rob us blind, and the best way to do that is to keep his base happy. You got some, you're tossing some people out of the country. You're taking away some women's rights. You're doing enough stuff to keep them happy, but you're doing it in a way that there's not huge headlines about military, literally like Kent State kind of headlines, and therefore you can get away with, oh, look over there, Pete Hegseth. Wow, look at those $4,000 toilets that we ordered for the Pentagon. Gee, where'd the rest of that money go? And look over there, Mr. Treasury Secretary. I mean, that's my feeling, is that it would get in the way of what his real plans are if he were to do it, but not for the right reason.
I hope that's the case. I really do, because I don't know anybody that, I mean, you're asking military to go into their own type of communities. They're not going to want to do that, and they can refuse it. They can absolutely refuse it. People don't understand is you can refuse it. You may get
Well,
in
you're
trouble
supposed
for
to. Not only
refusing it.
if you think it's an illegal order, I think you're compelled to refuse it, aren't you?
It's your moral obligation. It is your right. It is your job to refuse it. This was put into place, so there was no damn Germany Hitler situation. You understand? And because I hate it. I mean, this is a constant battle with me when he starts to scream that he's going to use the military in a civilian aspect, and I have to say, remind people. I mean, I have the best video, and I need to recircle it when he did that shit in DC with the protests.
Yep.
And okay,
Is that right
there
before
was
he
a
went and
black
he hid in his bunker because he's really tough?
the black they had a black soldier, and he was mouthing Black Lives Matter. Black
Oh,
Lives
can you
Matter.
please get me? I would love to have that
I
video.
will. I will go clip it. It was like, that's what I tried to tell everybody. This is the truth right here. This is the truth. And we are not giving any ammo in that situation. Those soldiers, if they have their guns, they don't have no ammo.
Right.
You
No, I
cannot
mean,
have it. It is all for show. Okay. I'm telling you, I've been in national emergencies where you're supposed to get ammo. We guarded, airfields with a gun with no ammo. I mean, that's
that's
just, you
interesting. So
can't
that
just
is
have ammo.
something I've learned. That is something I did not know. I
Yeah.
figured it would be rubber bullets or something of that nature, but I didn't know you had no ammo.
The only
Interesting.
ones that will ever have ammo would be the military police, and they would not have a M16. They would have a 9mm Beretta. They would not have an M16. They don't carry M16s. That's not their service weapon.
See, I like
So,
having
I mean,
smart military people on the show who can explain this. Do they all also carry around their Trump Bibles with the Lee Greenwood section so they can, they can sing that, or no, they don't
oh
do that.
my God, my
I
husband
know.
hates
What have
the
we
Trump
become?
Bibles.
So, I want to ask you a few more things. Yeah, we got a little bit longer, if a few more minutes, if that's okay with you. Um,
Yeah.
where are you based now? Just a generality. Like, don't give me your
I'm
block
in
or your home. I don't want anybody coming, but just in general.
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
That's where you are. Oh, cool. Good
I'm
state.
in a Democratic run state. It's wonderful.
That's true. Even
I'm
though
originally from Louisiana and Texas. I'm like half and half. And so I'm from like Republican hell. And I can tell you that it really helps to have a Democratic
it
leadership
does.
in
I've
a
lived in
Trump
both.
presidency.
I think that people, again, this is sometimes where we on the left can't be purists about things. I think a lot of people did not get that. Listen, on guns, on choice, and a whole bunch of stuff, John Bell Edwards was sucked. Okay. But having a
It's
Democratic governor for 2 terms in Louisiana, which is certainly one of the 5 or 10 most Republican states in the country, having a guy that expanded Medicaid, that and did
he was
things.
he had his good and he had his bad. I
I'm
always
not
called
saying
him,
he's good. I'm
a
not saying he's good.
Republican. I called him a halfer.
Yeah, I mean, listen, don't get me
He
wrong.
had to appease the masses,
Of course he did. And I'm not saying he's good. I'm just saying when compared, you have
Yeah,
to compare, right? I could not stand,
true.
and in the end, felt was glad to
Agree.
on many emotional levels to see Joe Manchin go. He was awful. But when Joe Manchin on certain votes was the 51st vote, I appreciated having a Democrat from there. Like, I have to sometimes separate my emotions
Ye
where I hated Joe Manchin, hated him, and still do, from the fact that
Right.
there were moments there where we needed that vote, And
Yeah.
so the same with John Bell Edwards. Like, I mean, again, Louisiana may literally never have a Democratic governor again.
Oh, no.
Not
It
everybody
won't.
has the talent of an Andy Bashir, who I don't know how the hell he does it, but I've met him before. He's amazing, charismatic, and has found a way to run as a moderate and actually speak out strongly on all
He's
sorts of
fantastic.
issues that you think would kill him in Kentucky, and he wins.
We need to bottle him up.
I know. So I mean, you can still be a moderate and be reasonable the way Doug Jones was a moderate and
Oh,
won in Alabama. He wasn't a John Bell Edwards. He wasn't a Manchin. He was a real moderate, and he
I
won
worked
there.
for Doug Jones.
Oh,
I
did
did
you?
work for Doug Jones. I love Doug Jones.
Yeah,
I
talk about
do.
American hero. I mean,
He's very underrated. I love Doug Jones.
I
He's
mean,
done a lot for this country, and he continues to do a lot for this
well, he
country.
voted to the left of Manchin and Sinema, and he was from Alabama. So let's start with that. And he knew he had to try to win re-election. So when people would complain about him, that would get me angry. Because I'd be like, look, folks, it's the same with John Tester, Sherrod Brown from here. I mean, Sherrod Brown was one of the more liberal members. I was like, these guys have to sometimes take some votes we'd rather they not take. It's compare them to their states. Compare how conservative their states are and
People.
how much to the left
Mhm.
of it they are. And Doug Jones was well to the left of his state. He had to disagree with us on some things. And the couple of years we had him there, I mean, think about in the end the absolute and abject moron in Tommy Tuberville that ended up winning
Oh
instead of
God.
him. And right, and we had in Doug Jones, and a traitor too, who mouths Putin stuff. So, whatever. In Doug Jones, like literally an American hero, the man who prosecuted the guys who blew up the Baptist church and murdered 4 little girls. I mean, this is a walking hero among us. And we got to have
Love
him
him.
from Alabama for a couple years, 2.5, 3 years, however long it was, as our U.S. Senator. And so we do have to me, be reasonable about that stuff. Listen, I've now
Yeah.
lived in a state that has been we had a couple big wins, Sherrod Brown in the past, and he couldn't even overcome Trump at the top of the ticket this time. We'd elected a couple of Supreme Court justices. They've now lost. Like, we've got nothing now. So I got to say to all of you, I give
Yeah, you do
anything.
live in one
I'd
of
give
those
anything
states.
for
I
a
get
John
it.
Bell Edwards right now as our governor.
Yeah.
Anything.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. And my grandmother was very sad to see them go. She loved him. My grandmother's
Yeah.
91, and she said, "I'm not happy about the new one." So,
Yeah. Well, I bet
Landry,
that guy.
yeah,
I mean, that guy. What's his name? Professor Mann.
Landry.
Yeah, who was forced out of LSU. Well, I'm saying Landry.
He's
I knew from Twitter. He used to tweet a
he's
lot. I haven't been on
smart.
Twitter almost at all anymore. But he was a professor. His last name was Mann, and he was a professor at LSU. And like Landry was, you could feel that already, that fascism coming. When Landry's elected, he basically declared war on him because Mann was liberal
Did.
and would share his opinions in places. And I should look and try to find him and have him on here. He just said, I finally just had enough, and he left. He retired from LSU because he's
And
like, I don't.
it's where, I mean, I grew up and I was a minority. I mean, we had more black kids than white kids where I grew up. So I grew up with that diversity, you know what I mean? And I know the state, and it's just, that's one of those that tugs on my heartstrings because
No,
it's just dirty, 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 dirty.
right. I always talk, I talk about here how lucky I got in a couple of respects. My parents both being very liberal minded, but then, again, when I was very young, late 70s, early 80s, New York, people get like to hear New York, and trust me, New York was segregated and it was racist. It was like anywhere else at that point. And I both grew up in a middle class housing development put up for veterans of World War II, because that we used to treat our veterans that way. So they were given rent controlled, this apartments in New York City, and whoever it was, it must have left. And my parents got that apartment. It was still rent controlled. Now, if you leave, like they hope my mom leaves because now they'll jack the rent up 6 times, and
Wow.
because they've changed the law. But in any case, so I got, and the thing about that, because it was military housing, it was integrated. So it
Mm,
never seemed strange to me that in my building and in my neighborhood and other buildings, I had numerous black friends. It just wasn't, I
yeah.
didn't even understand why you wouldn't. It just was. And then, as everybody saw with the good, I don't know if I'm speaking right, Pastor Booty, who told Donald Trump that he should be merciful, to which he lost his mind. That was a great example of the liberal-minded Episcopalian church. And I went to an Episcopalian church in New York City church school for 10 years. And the class was
Wow.
like 20% Jewish. There were at least 3, 4, 5 of a class of 35 black kids. It was diverse. And if I had gone to any public school in my area at that time, I would have been all around, just around people like me. And so I was lucky that in where I lived and in where I went to school, I never knew anything any different. And I was always, when I got old enough to realize it, I was so appreciative because I didn't have to unlearn garbage. I was taught
Right.
the right stuff,
Right. It's one of those backgrounds I appreciate as well. I mean, I moved to Texas at 15, and I mean, we moved to like Frisco, which is outside of Dallas, and at the time it was just fields. It was fields. Like they had like a McDonald's,
Yep.
but I had to, like, my friends had to tell me, "You're gonna hear my dad say some racist stuff. I just want to brace you," because I was so green to anything like that that they had to tell me when I moved to a
Had to
different
prepare
state.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was shocking. It was
Yeah.
it was shocking. I was just like,
Yep.
but I'm
I had some
appreciative
friends'
of that
parents who did that too. I
background.
mean, they probably didn't remain friends. I don't remember when I was really young. I'd go to their house and I would overhear it, and I was like, I'd have to go home to my parents, be like, "What was that?" You know, and
Yeah.
you
What
know,
does
and
that
I
mean?
crazy. Well, all right. I think this is probably where we'll let you go because there's a few other points of business here on the show. Um, so as a last kind of thing, so what's your I knew you were working with Vote Vets. Are you still doing or weren't you doing some work for them, or were you just helping promote some of their um
I've
media?
partnered with them. I've partnered with them for years. I mean, I any event that they have, I'm part of that. But I also work with Speaker Pelosi and a few other old school and new school Democrats, especially when coming to healthcare for veterans. As you know, Speaker Pelosi, I'll still call her Speaker Pelosi, is a huge healthcare advocate. I mean,
Uh-huh.
she put ACA, you know.
Yeah.
So I
Uh-huh.
do that, and I'm pretty sure you'll see us in Washington soon this year. Um, we were there when Biden was in office, so I know that we're going to be there a lot coming up years. Most of the time with Vote Vets. I mean, I love that organization. They are an amazing organization. They give us a voice. They give us a platform. They make sure that we are heard, and those are my peeps.
I couldn't
Um,
agree more. Back in the
I
day when
love them,
when
and
I
they're
was
good people.
they're great people. When I was doing a lot of more PR, less of what I do, fundraise some online fundraising, this stuff, whatever. They hired me at one point, and I was doing PR to help push out a couple of their campaigns. So I got to work with
Yeah,
them. Who was it? John Soltz back then. I don't know if
yeah.
John is
John
still
Paul's
involved.
still,
Still
yeah,
there? Yep. I just
still
haven't
head
talked to
on.
him in a while. I should reach out. It's just, time flies and you're like, whoa, it's been 8 years or something, just Trump years are different. But I worked with him
Yeah,
back then and some other members of Vote Vets, and that was a great experience because they had passion and drive, and they didn't give up easily, and they were those Democrats that believed in you hit hard for the good of the country, which means none of this, you know,
yeah.
we're gonna be above
Pacified
them. We're gonna be
BS.
better than them. No, you got to get in the dirt and fight these bastards.
Exactly. Exactly. And that is still the mentality. And they may have been a little quiet, but they're just gearing up. So look for more of those to come. I'm
So
excited. I'm
Skyleigh, what
excited.
is your
I'm just,
before you let you go? Someone Beth Stamara Profik here is saying, what is her YouTube name? So she may want to. Are you on YouTube?
I don't have a YouTube, like I have a YouTube channel, but it just has like Hegseth videos that I uploaded. I
Okay,
used to
where can we
be an
best find you
avid,
then?
I'm on Blue Sky. Just look up my name, Skyleigh Urich. I mean, I'm the only Skyleigh Urich in the world. Um, I
I
am
know that.
on still on
Good.
X. I don't post on there anymore, but that's of course where I started,
Yeah, that's
like
where I
a
first
lot of
got to
us.
know you. I remember. Well, we have some great moderators here, and Jim put up some of your info before. So if you can do that, if you can
Oh,
find whatever again, Jim, like her Skyleigh's Blue Sky and her unnamed YouTube channel, if it exists, and whatever else there
my
is,
name, I think.
we will tell people where to find you. I promise you.
Awesome. I appreciate the audience, and I so appreciate you having me on. I love these discussions and just getting to just hash it out. We got to keep ourselves
We
from
do.
imploding somehow.
I think we keep ourselves sane, and also you talk to good people is always a good thing, and I also just we learn from each other. I mean, just this
Yes.
conversation, I learned, I know a decent amount about military and other things just from studying history, having a dad involved in some ways, but I learned a couple things from you today. And you know what?
Good.
Learning, unlike, unlike the state of Texas that wanted to stop critical thinking being taught in their schools, I think learning and critical thinking are good things. So thanks for coming here and educating our audience and me.
Thank you for having me.
All right. You take care. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Okay. Well, that was awesome. I think I don't need to pump up Skyleigh anymore. She's incredible. And I met her, I think, who's on Twitter. initially, but she was doing activism for vets and has been forever, forever since I've known her, which is got to be at least a good 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. Oh, look, we've got Skyleigh's YouTube. I think I still see her off stage there looking. See, Skyleigh, we've got you. We know where to find you. Matthew Tarpley said here, bye, Skyleigh. You are the best. They love you here, Skyleigh. +1 for Skyleigh on Blue Sky now from Thomas Lind. So everybody's finding you. You've been awesome. We'll have you back on again, I promise. So guys, there's a rant to come. And don't have a ton of time for it on our friend Mr. Kash Patel. We have to get to him because that googly-eyed freak is well, we're going to need to comment on him. But first, I wanted to thank you. We've had a bunch of new Patreon. I don't know if those have been folks from here, but the Patreon has been spiking. I want to say thank you so much for that. The Substack has been spiking. I say thank you so much for that, as those are 2 places that I really would like folks to go and become members, and following on YouTube. YouTube channel, easy, right here. Some of you are on there right now. So, you know, if you're there, you're not subscribed, subscribe. We finally don't have them taking people away from us, which is a nice thing. Let me thank the folks here. Wow, Marie Jean Greco, great name. Gifted 5 Cliff's Edge memberships. So 5 YouTube memberships. Look at that. Thank you so much. We have My Buddy, member for 3 months. Outstanding. We have Jen. You know, let me put them all up as I should. So thank you. Ooh, very nice image there. For Marie, My Buddy, thank you. And we will never not love kitty images. Jen, who was kind enough to become a YouTube member. Thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate it. Awesome. And we have Mike Farley, my good pal, Mr. Rock and Roller. But I need any good rock and roll PR. And Mike shares my rage. Thank you, Mike. I can't act out rage. So if I'm enraged, you can bet that it's real. I mean, to react to people dying and not have the first thing be sympathy for their families and how what a horrific accident it was, and you know, they have the kind of reaction a human being and not a freaking psychopath has. To have the first reaction be to blame minorities and President Biden. I can't take that normally. So, Kash Patel. I don't know where we are right now in the hearings on Kash Patel. Maybe he's been there so long that his eyes have straightened out. Not sure. What I do know about Kash Patel is literally maybe the least qualified person to run the FBI ever. I mean, if you want a terrorist running the FBI, I suppose that's a great call. If you want a traitor running the FBI, I suppose that's a great call. If you want a sycophant who would do anything Donald Trump told him to do at any time, no matter what, who joined the Defense Department as an appointee in those final months to help him plan January 6th, he would be amazing. Kash Patel, thankfully, when he went in today, is not getting an easy time and is getting grilled and getting hammered by various members of the committee. There were some favorites of mine. Let me see if I can find them. Let's get to what Cory Booker had to say. Booker talked about the fact that Kash Patel has actually had an enemies list. That's correct. He's released an enemies list. Gee, so Nixon, or should we go more towards a Stalin-esque interpretation here? What's he going to do to those people on the enemies list? Are you just going to arrest them? Are you going to do something worse? Why are they enemies? Well, because of course they're not pathetic little kiss-ups to Donald Trump. Booker basically said to him, wanted to address his comments that he was going to overhaul the FBI. What does that mean? I mean, we all know they're trying to defang every organization, right? They're getting rid of government workers, and they're trying to install in every place their own little sycophants, just like little Kash, spelled with a C, of course, as some others kindly said in the chat there. So Booker asked him what he's going to do. I do think you have an assignment from Donald Trump to gut the FBI, Booker said, reading a quote from Patel saying he wants to, quote, shut down the Bureau's headquarters. Think about that for a second. These jackasses, these right-wing traitors who went and bowed down and kissed Putin's butt on the 4th of July, that Republican Party who acted like Democrats were the traitors for wanting to defund the police, which, by the way, was a slogan I thought was dumb and never made sense, as opposed to advocating for peace and for better training for police and for a much more an approach that was, I mean, I don't have the messaging for it right now, but a more rounded approach, because there are times when we need workers to go in, right? Who can help women, for example, if there's an abusive husband. There are other times where our police can be used differently, trained differently. We can root out racism. Okay, whatever. I don't even want to get into that. But these guys said defund the FBI. That was their big thing. Defund the FBI? Like defund the organization that stops terrorist acts domestically, that stops mass criminal conspiracies? Well, of course, because that's what Donald Trump is, a terrorist and a mass criminal. So what does Donald Trump want to do? Of course, he wants to take the FBI apart. There's nobody there to investigate crimes. I guess nobody can investigate him. Do you agree, Booker said, that you already prepared plans to remove certain individuals from their offices? For example, individuals that will be replaced by political personnel. And of course, we all know the answer to that is yes. Kash sort of shook his eyes around like a slot machine a little bit, and he declined to answer numerous times. Booker became increasingly angry and repeated the question, and Kash Patel, of course, refused to answer, because that's what these guys do. So Pete Hegseth would do. He'd filibuster and not answer questions. They don't answer questions because they don't have any good answers, because they're all cruel, corrupt, incompetent. How do you do it? But I like even better what Adam Schiff had to say to him. And Kash Patel, once again, had no answer, because Kash Patel has no answers to anything, because, again, Kash Patel is not really very bright. You'd think he would know. He was going to be questioned about various ideas of his, calling for shutting down the FBI, calling for an enemies list of people to be arrested, retweeting an image of leaders getting their faces hacked, like I think chainsawed off. That's a dude that we should actually be looking at arresting, not running the FBI. If he had retweeted that image in some of the countries I think some of the folks in our chat are watching from, he would go to prison for that. It's just our misguided First Amendment here, where we equate hate speech with, and threatening people somehow with freedom. But I promise you, there are a number of European countries that would have thrown him in prison for that, which, of course, is where he belongs. Trying to find what Adam Schiff had to say to him. We should be there in a second. Well, so he said he was a victim of the Justice Department. And he basically said he was arrested. They went after him on political grounds, which is so galling and so angry and is unbelievable, because, again, I hate bringing up the stupid guy's name, but I seem to always have to do it. Merrick Garland. There was this speech and debate clause, which one could argue stupidly, but could argue protected members of Congress who were conspiring with Trump, even when they weren't on the congressional floor. Again, stupid. And I don't believe that is accurate, but they could try that. There's Donald Trump with this BS immunity the Supreme Court granted him. The founders never intended. You see, we overthrew a king. We didn't want that again, but they decided that. But you know who didn't have a speech and debate clause or immunity? Kash Patel. He had none of that protecting him. There's literally no reason that I can understand that for his obvious, and they had plenty of evidence, role in helping Donald Trump conspire, not to mention Ginny Thomas would be another one. But we'll stay with Kash for now, and not the crazy former cult lady who'd walk around like a freaking cartoon character with like a Statue of Liberty hat on. What was the reasoning in not prosecuting Kash Patel? He was a victim of the Justice Department, referring to the testimony he gave to authorities over Trump's handling of classified documents. Oh, really? So Trump broke the law and stole classified documents, and Kash Patel believes that he was the victim here because he had to answer questions about what his criminal boss did, and as an alleged criminal himself, and I wish I have to put that in there. Well, they could have tossed him in the pokey too. There should be no politics at the FBI, Patel said. Oh, you mean like McGonagall? the head of the New York office, the one that was releasing all the stuff, trying to pull a fake and claim that Trump had no connection to Russia. And eventually we found out he was working for, oh, right, Russia. Is that who you're talking about? And having been a victim of the weaponization of law enforcement against me, I know what it feels like. You know nothing, you little punk. You don't even know how to dress. You ever see him in that little weird urban cowboy leather outfit of his that's like a picture going up from? It's not an angle you want to see. And if I'm confirmed, I'll make sure no American feels that slight of hand again. You've promised you have an enemies list. Which is it? Refused to talk about Trump's classified documents. Refused to answer on that. Just, ignored it. And let's see. Let's see if I can find it here because it's annoying me now. Because I think Adam Schiff just beat the, well, we won't say, but let's just say he took down Kash Patel. There we are. So Adam Schiff asked Kash Patel to answer his question if he was proud of the role he played in ensuring that 250 officers were beaten, stabbed, gouged, kicked, crushed, speared with American flags and the rest on January 6th, something that he helped plan. Was he proud of that? And of course, he lost his mind and started screaming back at Schiff and showing he lacks the temperament. Schiff made it personal and went right at him. This is awesome. Said, tell the officers you're proud. Tell them that you're proud of promoting a song with the January 6th rioters who attacked them. Patel, again, he's a real tough guy when he's making his little lists in crayon, but can't really defend himself now, can he? When it comes to all the things he says and does when he's not under oath. Again, he has no qualifications for the job. He has anti-qualifications that he should have been prosecuted for being a criminal and a traitor, that he's threatened violence against all sorts of people in society. He has no temperament for the job. He has no intelligence for the job that I can tell lacks pretty much any qualities at all that would have him get that job. So I'm not, we're not watching right now. Maybe some of you guys have it on the background. All I can say is let's hope that it's not just Adam Schiff and Cory Booker. Let's hope others are taking a chunk out of Kash Patel. This joke, this cartoon out of Bugs Bunny. This guy literally that should be like some loser goofball like Yosemite Sam riding around with a little shotgun, yelling his little 4'2", yelling his little mouth off, while everybody else ignores him and pretty much tells him to shut up and maybe try to stare straight forward. That's Kash Patel, and this has been my second takedown. And folks, I think that I left that Mike Farley thing up there, didn't I? Mike, I love you. I hope I didn't do another one of these with the thing in front of my face. But I suppose it is what it is, man. Time is a good teacher. I'll learn eventually. So I think we've got 6 minutes. We can't go over 2 hours. This is the part of the show. Usually there's a few parts of the show, but Skyleigh was so great and Tony was great. And we had a lot to talk about today. Wile E. Coyote is more like a Cliff. Yeah, maybe. For Kash. So this is where I say to you, who's going with me? Anything, guys. If you will consider 99-cent, $1.99, whatever, small super sticker, super chat, that would be a great way to go out the door and leave for the day and even for our little long weekend. Michael McAndrews, love the show, Cliff. Thank you so much, Michael. Super chat, super sticker, Patreon membership. Somebody can let me know they joined Patreon. We have been spiking over there. We are creating an awesome community there. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Substack and go join there for free. And that's where a lot of my writing is going to land. They make that really easy. Lefty Gramps, thank you. You are a good man. I'm going. Good show, Cliff. You are a blunt man, and Lefty Gramps, I respect you for it. Thank you for staying for, well, I would say about 99% of the show. Michael McAndrews, as always, again, I'm going to have to, I really should say Lefty Gramps pretty often too. Has jumped in and been amazing. Michael McAndrews, coffee break, $10, super chat. I'm going to have to There will be a hall of fame of people. I'm serious, not even a joke. Start compiling lists like I'm Kash Patel. No, you guys, look, I know not everybody can afford it. And I've always said the same thing, which I don't want you to do it if you can't. But if you can, it helps me continue to do this. And it allows me to, and I already am going to start listing members. I've needed to do that and I haven't done that. That's part of what I promised you. So soon at a certain level, I have to look at the level, but I will find out and start listing you at the beginning of the show and maybe create a nice graphic. Matthew Tarpley jumps in with a $10 or $5 super sticker. Thank you so much, Matthew. You too have often jumped in here when I've done my little thing at the end and asked and helped me go out on a great note. So thank you so much. Jim Williams lets you know where to find me. Again, very much also want you to subscribe to the YouTube, but these are the two places where right now I can build audience, have your emails, keep in touch with you, make sure you know where to find me if something crazy happens, because I have your information. See you later, Lefty Gramps, as he says goodbye to everybody. Take care, my friend. So please do. What I've been doing for folks is an extra added benefit. If you do join Patreon, I right away take your email and I get you the Substack for free. You will never have to pay for it. And I will induce you folks who have YouTube memberships. They do not give me, which is why I push Patreon over YouTube memberships. They do not give me your data. So we're gonna have to figure out a contest to run. Contest, raffle, something. So if you get me, there'll be a couple prizes because I don't want it to be like you all go and do it and then one person wins. Sheldon Hughes, did I mention Sheldon? Because I meant to. You've also been one that always jumps in and really helps me out here. Sorry, Cliff can't send a super chat on the phone. I'll make it up for it on Tuesday. Thank you. Arizona Sunflowers jumps in. Thank you for this awesome show. Loved you when I found you on Hal's show. I'll be back. Well, thank you. And I will still be on Hal's show. And I will still be here. So you can continue to catch me in both places. My schedule is changing a little bit. How often I go on certain shows is going to change a bit, but I'll tell you more about that. And that's because I want to make sure I have enough time here. And oh God, it is 3:58. If I go beyond 4, they will not let me replay this. So you guys are awesome. Have a great day. Love you all. Thanks for being here. And as the sun sets slowly in the west, I bid you all a fine farewell.